Are you ready for part 2 of our 3-part series on rebuilding cruise controls? Well, you better be, because here we go. Here we are with our cruise control unit that we disassembled in the first episode. I've subsequently taken and cleaned everything up and all looking pretty good. There were a few parts that actually came apart more than I realized in the original video. As I was cleaning them up, I found that in this assembly here, in the governor, we had this bearing assembly hidden inside of that cavity. And also the governor shaft and weights, the weights come off, and there's 3 washers which you'll see, or 2 washers and a snap ring that hold this all together. So that when you see me putting those parts together and you say, hey, wait a minute, you didn't take those apart in the first video. Well, discovered them after I was cleaning things up and got the grease off of them. So the first thing we're going to do in this reassembly process is do the motor. It's a nice unit that we can get done, get ready to mount, get it out of the way. There are a few details that we need to pay attention to. So the first thing to look at is, I reminded you when you disassembled the unit, to pay attention how these washers were laid out on the motor shaft so you can put them together in the same way. So what I'm going to do is apply a little bit of grease there. A little bit more there. So on this side it was a washer, steel washer, fiber washer, and another steel washer. And this one goes fiber with then 2 steel washers. And I put a little bit of oil on this bearing or bushing. So now we have to deal with the brushes, and you've seen me deal with the motor brushes in other pieces of equipment. This is always tricky to get the springs compressed, get the carbon in place. There is a indexing notch there. There's actually on 2 sides of the motor, but the wires lead out near the hole. I'll make sure that this end cap is, so I can rotate it a little bit. We want to kind of put in the center of that rotation so that the screws are parallel with the motor. Now I'm going to go over to the other bench and grab some test leads, and we'll spin the motor up, make sure that it runs nice. So I got the jumper leads hooked up to a battery over here. So the ground will go to the black. The red and the green are the 2 hots, 1 for each direction. We'll just run some power to it. The motor spins down nice, so everything looks good. So we'll set that aside for a moment and we'll bring the housing. So what I'm going to do is think about the order that we should be putting things back in here. I think I'll do the governor, and then we'll do the mechanism here. But we got a few more parts to prepare. So what we have here is the parts that make up the flyweight governor. And down in here there was this snap ring that held back a washer and a wave washer spring. And I found those when I was cleaning up the parts. So this just slides onto that shaft. Then it's the wave, then the flat. And we got to get that little snap ring down in there. Take this socket and push down, make sure it's in there tight. So now we got the snap ring back mounted to the shaft. You can see there's some friction between the two parts. So normally it would spin out like that. And now these here are the electrical parts that we need to look at, and we have some contacts we need to clean. My little contact burnisher. This is the one that keeps it from pulling in too soon. And this is the one that keeps this locked in place to keep the system actuated. Then these here are the ones that control the motor for setting the speed, which you'll see in the demonstration video, part 3, that will be coming out soon. Okay, now we have everything ready to begin assembly. Little ball bearing, it's got one side that's sealed and the other side is open. So I'm going to work some grease down into the open side. And the open side goes towards the inside of the housing. You can see very slightly there the snap ring groove. You can see I can catch my fingernail on it. We'll get this snap ring onto the tool. Be very careful that you don't break the snap ring. These little ones are very fragile. So everything is working nice and free. Try to get some oil down here on this nylon shaft. And work down there between that, work down around the clip there. So all this does is this is the input from the transmission. And this is the output to the speedometer and the gear ratio, and there's just 1:1. So we can go ahead and put the housings back on here. Get that job out of the way. I will prepare the rest of the parts for the governor assembly. Need to lubricate that little bearing. The engineering in these units and the quality of the construction is really something. Very, very nice. This unit is designed for cruise control. It was actually invented by a blind man. And the story goes that when he was riding in the car with his lawyer, when the lawyer would be talking, he'd drive slower than when he was listening. He'd speed up. And that change in speed was not pleasing. And so he invented cruise control. Keep the car going at a constant speed. That's, of course, according to the internet. You know you can believe everything you read on the internet. So this goes in here and works against those weights. But we're not going to put that in yet. Just getting it ready, showing you where it goes. Because once we start getting parts in here, it gets really tight, gets really hard to see what's going on. So now this unit here has all the brains of the operation. I'm going to explain how all this works in a future video. We're going to do a part 3 where you actually get to see this whole thing working, which is really quite impressive. A little bit of grease. Slide all this together. This is the contact that prevents the premature lockup. It won't latch. I don't know if we can see in there too good. I'll pull this out. That contact in there that we cleaned a moment ago is actuated by that little nub. So as the cruise control, you're working the throttle with this. This is following along with the pedal. And then when you bring the unit, turn it on, it comes up and touches there. It closes that contact. And then when you hit the lock-in button, so right now this is the mode when it's powered up and just coming up against that contact. This is the mode that is the speed minder, so that you can set a speed and the pressure on the gas pedal becomes stronger when you reach that speed to help keep you from speeding. And then if you want to maintain that speed, you hit the lock-in button, it pulls that in, this other contact holds this in, and now the servo mechanism controls the throttle. You lift your foot off the pedal, and the servo here controls the speed of the car. So throwing that little bit of operation in, because you can't really see it that good when it's when I demonstrate it. So we got this all lubricated up. Slide it into the housing. And we got another one of these really neat little ball bearings. Work the grease into it. Get sandwiched between the stainless steel washers. So that acts as a thrust washer for this shaft. So you can't pull it back in, so that's why you have to hold it awkward like that and work on it. And this plug goes over. And the nameplate goes on. And these were made by the Perfect Circle division of Dana, the same outfit that makes the piston rings that probably a lot of us have in our old cars. Now we'll bring the motor in. This is one of those things that getting the sequence right when you're taking it apart and putting it together is a big help. The motor has to engage. Show you guys the notch in the shaft. Then there's a center pin to give this some, keep it from rocking. And it is easier to go around to this side and start this nut first. And this side has the ground wire. Kind of a tight fit in here. I'm hoping you guys are able to see enough. I have to position it where I can do it. A set of ignition wrenches would come in real handy right here. So now we have the nut on the motor shaft. We got the two wires coming out. Excuse me, I said earlier the black wire was the ground. It's the green wire. The black wire is one of the directional leads, I believe. I may have spoken wrong earlier in the video. So now we have this mechanism. These fingers here with the nubs on them engage in the block. A little bit more lubrication on here. And slide this whole assembly together. Be careful we don't have any wires getting pinched anywhere. And, oh, gotta get this plate in the right position. There's a lot of things to line up here. There we go. You need to get one screw started here. Okay, get one screw started. This whole mechanism with the spring should come off, but it is so, there's some corrosion in there, and that spring is pretty heavy duty. It makes it where it's difficult to get to these screws to tighten them and to loosen them. So we got this whole assembly mounted back in the housing. I'll show you a little detail of the functionality. This is the hot contact for the motor. And depending on which contact it touches, the motor turns the shaft and moves this assembly. This will just kind of normally hover in between. As the car speeds up or slows down, it'll touch a contact and make a correction in the vehicle's speed. So every time it touches and moves the assembly, it moves and this is locked, it moves the throttle. This black wire needs to come over and be connected to this terminal here. So one thing that there's a bit of wiring and you need to pay attention to. And you want to make sure that the wiring is not going to get stuck in the mechanism. So run that black wire through. This plugs onto the terminal strip. And then we have two red wires. It's always nice when they give you two wires of the same color. They go onto this block here, which screws in here. The red wire from the motor goes to this terminal here. And the red wire from the mechanism goes to this terminal here. What this does is when the motor is parked, this opens and stops the motor from turning when you power the unit off. You'll see it in the demonstration. When power is applied here, it backs the mechanism all the way back this direction, and then opens that contact. So normally that contact has to be closed for normal operation. Like I say, we're going to do a video on how this all works. That plugs in there. Last thing we got to assemble is the governor. So we set the bearings in there earlier, lubed them up, goes in there. This ring goes onto the plastic, and the hole here engages with the pin, and how the hole here is offset. Get the screw started correctly. It's offset, and this side here faces out, faces you as you're putting it together. Same with these nubs here. They're on the outside, and the nubs take and bottom out. There's a slight lip on here, and the nubs go against that. Now that we got the collar on the pin, we take and get the notches lined up, get the screws started. So now as the weights work in and out, they'll control the switch. Last part is the spring, the cap, the guide block. A little lubrication on here. This gets adjusted as part of your calibration of getting the speed on the dial to match the speed of the vehicle. So it is all put together now. So now I got the jumper leads out. I'm gonna hook up ground. I'm going to apply power to the park terminal. Just like that. Now the throttle is free to... We'll show you how this all works in the next video. A couple other places to lubricate. Get in there on that roller. There, and get some on it down in here. So now you know how to take apart and clean up and lubricate and refurbish your Perfect Circle cruise control unit. Stay tuned for part 3, where we actually set this up on the bench and have it in operation. You get to see how everything interacts and works. See you next time.
At Caddy Daddy Presents, it's all about giving back. Please enjoy the video of the Boys and Girls Clubs of St. Helena and Calistoga. donate by clicking the link in the video description.